So we just can run and hide in the basement. I'm just waiting for Fred to come back. Interesting. So it's interesting. I just yeah, you can start.
Welcome to the Westtown Township Board of Supervisors Workshop on Monday, August 3rd, 2023. Today we'll have an overview and update on the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, NPDES Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, support program.
I will share. You just want to turn the microphone on, Sam? Just button. Yep, that's good.
Give me a click.
I usually does not work, so I'll just do that.
Well, good evening, thank you for having me. I'm Sam Moxley with Board of Supervisors. We are your MS4 consultant, so I'm the MS4 manager for Cedarville, and through that, it's my job to ensure that you guys maintain compliance with your MS4 permit. Given that we now have Fred and Jody who are new to the board, I want to take today to go over some basics of the MS4 program. What are you guys required to do annually to maintain compliance? Some of the struggles of having an unfunded mandate and what municipalities do to maintain compliance and kind of manage costs of an unfunded mandate. And then jump into like some upcoming changes that we're expecting with the rollout of a new MS4 permit. And then we'll go over the pollution reduction plan that the township's currently been working on and close to closing out. So MS4, your municipal separate storm sewer system, is permanent under the NPDES or National Pollution Elimination Detection System. As a way for municipalities to manage stormwater that is collected through their separate storm sewer and discharges to waters in the Commonwealth. With that, the state has identified 6 areas that municipalities need to focus on to maintain compliance. Those 6 things are called minimum control measures, or MCMs. And for any of you, if I start spouting acronyms and you're not sure what it is, please stop me. Also would help anyone else watching later. I'll do my best to try and spell everything out instead of acronyms. With the MCMs, or minimum control measures, the first one is public education and outreach, and that focuses on what the township does or the municipality does to educate their residents. So it's to, are you posting things online? Are you hosting webinars or events through Environmental Advisory Council? What are you doing to ensure that your community is knowledgeable about stormwater pollution and is able to identify and minimize stormwater pollution within the township? MCM2 is public involvement and participation. So now that you've educated your community, it's how are you allowing them to be involved? One thing we do for involvement is this: it's having a stormwater discussion at a public meeting where public comments allowed to be made. Other things, hosting EAC events like tree planting, or just in general, if you have
West Town Day,
West Town Day, the our booth where we talk about stormwater or roadside cleanup site. NCM4 is your construction site stormwater runoff that is managed by the conservation district, so they're issuing the erosion sediment control permits and then terminating the permit once the site is complete and stabilized. NCM5, it falls back into the hands of the municipality once the construction site is finished, and that is your post-construction stormwater management. So that is the stormwater basins or management features, once they're fully stabilized, they go on an inventory and they're inspected annually by us, Cedar Grove. We go out and do the inspections to ensure that the structures are operating and they aren't deteriorating.
how many we
Skip.
have now?
A
Okay,
Scoop 3, illicit discharge, detection and elimination, that is your outfalls, where the point that your storm sewer discharges to the waterway. We screen those outfalls to ensure that they are only discharging stormwater. So we go out during a dry weather period and we check to see if there's a dry weather flow that has visible indicators, so something like an oily sheen, a smell that would indicate sewage, trash or debris, or like sometimes you can see like cooking oil or paint from things being dumped at the drain. And then 6 is pollution prevention and good housekeeping. That is what the township does with the facilities that they own. So it's your public works department ensuring that they're storing road salt correctly, that they're maintaining a tidy workshop, and they're not letting oils from vehicle maintenance or go down the floor drain and get discharged into a waterway, or even just properly storing chemicals or your storage tanks to ensure that they're not leaking. And then within the permit, you have your pollution reduction plan, and we have the projects that we made thus far. Your Sage Road Basin retrofit, your Thorn Drive Basin retrofit, and then the Basin Park bioswale.
and just
Did
to
it.
add one meadow conversion.
The meadow conversion for Beverly that we took credit for last year. Then we have 2 more projects, so we'll jump more to it on the end.
Yep.
And those are under an additional requirement for the township to kind of be proactive and reduce their fluid load. So like I briefly said, each year we assemble an annual report that documents what the township did that year to show that they maintain compliance within their MCMs. Environmental control measures, so the public outreach and education, we have a written education plan, which includes target audiences within your community. Is it solely private residents? Is like what kind of density is the population? Do you have industrial areas or kind of commercial areas? So that way you can identify who your community is and how you can tailor your educational material. Typically for a community like West Town, it's primarily your Facebook posts and having groups like EAC who engage with your community. And then for FCM2, it also has a written program that we update and review annually and kind of highlight different ways that you can engage with the community. Outfall screening with discharge detection, we have a written program and enforcement flow chart that we follow and have to review annually. We also have to update maps annually, so that way we have the storm sewer completely mapped out. So in the event that we find an illicit discharge, we're able to trace it back upstream to identify where it's coming from. For MCM5, subset MCM4 is enhanced the conservation district managing the actual construction activity. It's the annual inspections of the PCSM post-construction stormwater management facilities. Within your 2022 ordinance, we also added in the less than 1 acre small projects, and that's the kind of EMPs that are at a residential property from them installing like a swimming pool or a deck where they increase the impervious surface of their property, and they had to install an additional stormwater management facility with the improvement. Those are all inspected and logged and mapped within MCM5 and reported for the compliance. And then MCM6, we have to post a training, so once a year I come out with Public Works through and we go through a different topic of the stormwater management program. And we do facility inspection. We'll go out and do either like a outfall screening or a EMP inspection. For an MCM5 inspection of a stormwater facility, kind of make them more engaged and interactive. Like I said, all that is rolled into an annual report that I'm currently working on putting together. It's due at the end of September, and then once it's finalized, we can submit it to the state to log your compliance. The state will randomly come out once every 5 years to do an audit, and they'll review the annual reports that we've submitted, sit down with Neil and myself and go over compliance over since the last inspection. So now that we kind of established what we do annually to maintain compliance, I think it's important to look back to go, where did this program come from? Because the biggest thing I get from supervisors and community officials is, why do I have to do this? Why is it on me? It never originally wasn't on the municipalities. The NPDS program stemmed from the Clean Water Act in 1972 as a way to control the rampant point source pollution of industrial processors. So things like the Love Canal in Niagara Falls, where they were just dumping chemicals into a canal and then they backfilled it, and then the entire community was riddled with cancer and other defects. For the Cuyahoga, that's it, Ohio River fire, in where there was so much pollution on the waterway that the actual surface of the river caught on fire. So it originally stemmed as a way to control and kind of tailor point source pollution. And then in 1978, it still was that point source pollution, but the federal government who was managing it turned it over to the states to individually manage their own NPDS programs. And then in 1987, it was expanded to include non-point source pollution, which is stormwater. So it's anything that we can't specifically identify where the pollution is coming from. So it's not just a producer discharging, it's oils from cars sitting on the roadway or people over fertilizing lawns and for agriculture kind of running off into the waterways where we can't specifically identify it. And then in 1999 is when they added small municipalities. So prior to 1999, between 87 and 99, it was only for large municipalities, which in Pennsylvania is Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. Any idea what the cutoff point is for a large or small municipality? 100,000 residents. So in Pennsylvania, not every township has a MS4 perk because they don't have the population size or the density or the impervious cover. But the ones that do, anything that's under 100,000 residents falls into this small municipality category. So now that they added a small municipality and said, you have to do this, but we're not going to fund it, you have to figure out how to fund it. It's the biggest light of an unfunded mandate that every or most municipalities in Pennsylvania have to deal with. Issues with the unfunded mandate, there's no dedicated funding from the state or federal government that helps you with it. So it's entirely on you and other municipalities to fund it. It involves a lot of intensive labor, or not intensive labor, but manpower, because you're doing annual inspection, filling out reporting, and you're researching, developing, and implementing capital BMP improvements.
And BMP is,
Best management practice for a stormwater facility. That actually acronym is changing in the next permanent update. So it's no longer going to be a BMP, it's going to be a stormwater control measure, an SCM.
so it's like rain gardens and
Yeah,
trenches.
garden basins and irrigation trenches. Anything that is made to detain or slow the flow of stormwater. So with all the manpower that you need to maintain compliance, it's also specialized knowledge that has to be used, like with mapping with GIS, so like having someone who's able to go through and survey and collect all the data of your stormwater collection system, the location of everything, compile it into a online or computer database, and then create a map of it. So that's something that I maintain, so I go through every year and update the mapping to include new inspection reports and property owner information, that kind of thing. And then you also need staff of engineers to be able to go through and evaluate and design these capital improvement projects or your pollution reduction plan projects like Sage Road, Tyson Road, Sage Road Basin, Tyson Park Bioswale, and your Thorn Drive Basin. All have to have a engineer design those. So what municipality can afford to have a staff of environmental compliance or like environmental specialists that have knowledge of GIS mapping, can also go out and do the inspections and have the licensures to be able to design these kind of projects. That leads most municipalities to hire a outside firm like Cedarville, who has a dedicated staff of myself and engineers who work on the projects for you and ensure that you maintain compliance. Because although it's possible that the state does come down and either reviews your annual report that you submit to them or comes down and does an audit and finds that you're not in compliance, they can will issue citations and fines. And then through this, we also, as Cedarville, to fund these projects, we pursue grants on behalf of you guys to fund your capital improvement projects. And then you also partner with watershed organizations, so the Christina Watershed Group and the Red Clay Alliance. By buying into those kind of groups, we can lean on them to help maintain compliance as well. So we know where it came from, and we know the struggle with the unfunded mandate, but why is it important? At a surface level, for most people, it reduces pollutants flowing into your municipal storm sewer and increases water quality. And it's also a state and federal requirement. But at a deeper level, we can look at the socioeconomic benefit for a township to actually abide and implement a MS4 program beyond we have to do it. The biggest thing when they do surveys on what is the biggest concern for most people is flooding. Stormwater control detains water and slowly lets it out to slow down the discharge of stormwater, alleviating flooding. U.S. Congress Joint Economic Committee in 2020 did a study and found out that it costs the United States as a whole over $179 billion annually to repair flooding costs, or just flooding costs in general. So that is road repair, culvert replacement, employing and having emergency services go out for flood rescue, or even just going out to shut down a road because it's flooded out. There was a peer-reviewed article that I found, and they did an analysis in 2018 and found that for every cubic foot of runoff, it cost $1.20 of downstream property damage. And if you were curious how much a cubic foot of runoff is, it is roughly 7 gallons of water. So your water cooler, your blue bottle, that's 5 gallons of water. So a little bit more than one of those water coolers of runoff can cause $1 of damage. And when you think about how much runoff actually comes off like one parking space. It's 128 gallons of runoff for a half inch of rain or something like that. So it adds up very quickly when you look at it as a whole. If we look in Pennsylvania, Honesdale Borough, who was devastated by a flood last summer from some of those freak rainstorms that we had. Their estimated repair cost for the downtown area is over $2 million. So for the socioeconomic benefit, it is estimated that $1 prevention measures prevents $5 in damage repair. And that is from the Nature Conservancy, the 2020 study they did. And then we can also, there's from the US Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA has found through a study that there's a 11% increase in property values from green stormwater infrastructure. So having a functioning stormwater management system not only theoretically can, or not theoretically, showed that in, I think it was one of the Philadelphia metro area, that the addition of green stormwater infrastructure increased the property values 11%. You're protecting your community and you're protecting your infrastructure. Because the last thing you want to do is have to repair roads when you don't need to repair roads. It's already a burden enough to have to do an annual road program. So with the, like I mentioned, there's upcoming changes to the MS4 permit. And it originally was supposed to go into effect this October. The DEP, or Department of Environmental Protection, went through and solicited public comment and then published the draft last year, and there was supposed to go into effect this October. They received quite a bit of pushback and they keep revising it, so they actually don't have a date published for the new permit to roll out yet. So probably at the earliest it will start in 2027. But they, from the update, they included stricter language for NCM3, so that was to increase the annual screenings. So typically, or under the current permit, your outfalls for the illicit discharge detection, we screen once every 5 years. With some outfalls being screened annually, depending on if they're determined to be a priority outfall, which is deemed by what's going through that outfall. So is it, you have a commercial area, is it a known problem outfall where there's pollution that's or other discharges are there? Those get pumped to it once a year cycle, and the rest are done once every 5 years. And the new permit is going to be more done annually, and less are going to be done once every 5 years. NCM4, your construction inspections that's been handled by the county. That there's language that expresses that townships are going to be entering a memorandum of understanding with conservation districts to get in writing an agreement for who's responsible for what between construction inspections or construction stormwater management and post-construction stormwater management. Pollution reduction plans are going to be finished, and then they're going to implement a volume management plan. So currently, a pollution reduction plan is geared towards specific pollutants, so your sediment and your nutrients. And every time we do a project, we get credit for sediment and nutrients as separate values. Under volume management plan, it's going to be just your volume control. So it's no longer I need to reduce my nitrogen and phosphorus X amount and my sediment X amount. It's going to be I'm reducing my stormwater volume discharge. So that will be a separate plan that is very similar to the pollution reduction plan, where we're going to have to implement projects to meet our volume management objective. And with that volume management objective, they included a maximum extent tax quote calculator, which based off of what you already have in your municipality, it's supposed to reduce your objective. So if you already have basins and other stormwater management facilities that are volume control, it takes credit for them off the top of your agenda. Then your 2022 ordinance that you guys have is going to be updated to a 2021 or 2028 ordinance that has updated language. So there's expected to be guidance for that. Just like in 2022 when you guys had to go through it. And then normally for your annual report is considered a notice of intent to continue permit coverage. Now they're going to have a separate notice of intent document that is submitted alongside the annual report.
Can you add what else goes into that MEP calculation? Is that also kind of benefit cost analysis and environmental justice areas have to be mapped?
So that's one of the things they're changing.
Okay,
So originally the net maximum fit practical calculator took in effect the socioeconomic status of the municipality.
okay,
And they revised it to kind of tailor away from that because a lot of people were upset about that. I heard one comment that someone was like, say they were like, you're penalizing the rich and benefiting the poor or something like that stuff. There's a lot of weird pushback on it, so they're kind of taking away the socioeconomic factors and going more towards your impervious surface cover and what management facilities you already have installed.
thank you.
So what this means for Westtown Township, said we're gonna have a separate document to prepare, to submit with the annual report. We're gonna have to have more, stringent inspections for outfalls with the increase of annual inspections. We're gonna have to coordinate with the conservation district to determine what the MOU looks like. And we're gonna have to start a whole new volume management plan. It's gonna be identifying areas that perhaps capital projects can be implemented, and then seeing how much volume credit we can take for each project. And then for you guys, updating an ordinance, or I guess updating an ordinance. And then, so overall, it's an increase in technical, administrative, and potential capital demand over the next 24 months if it actually goes into effect in 2027. Because like I said, it's already been delayed significantly. So we went over what we're going to, and we still have our pollution reduction plan. So the current set of capital improvement projects, the pollution reduction plan, like I said, is to reduce actual pollutants, your phosphorus, nitrogen, and sediment discharge. And the pollution reduction plan is created based off a number of impaired waterways within a municipality. So for Westtown Township, we've got Plum Run, Chester Creek, Goose Creek, East Branch, Chester Creek, and unnamed tributary of Hunter's Run, which all have been identified as impaired waters. So based off of those impairments, we went through and found a number of projects that were within the respective watersheds that would reduce the pollutant load within those watersheds to meet the requirements set by DEP. And we have completed Tyson Park Bioswale, Thorn Drive Basin, and Sage Roads Basin retrofits. And that leaves 2 projects that are still being completed. The Radley Run stream restoration being completed by Brandon Clay Lines is
Still pending?
still pending. It should be going into construction soon. And then the Pleasant Grove stream restoration, which Cedarville was doing in-house alongside you guys. That design has been completed, and we're currently currently pursuing grant opportunities. With that, we are currently funding the 50% of the Pleasant Grove stream restoration. So I just wanted to go over some other funding options that you guys could keep an eye on in the future, and then I'll be working with Mila on seeing what we should apply for phase two for the next go around if we don't get funding for growing greener for this year. There's always Penvest, which is your low interest financing. If it's deemed that we can take the loan out to complete the projects. There's also section 319 point source grants through the state of Pennsylvania, which would apply to your stream restorations. That is through the same portal as Growing Greener and follows the same submittal schedule. It just has a higher match requirement. You personally like pursue Growing Greener because it has only a 5% match. When something like section 319 is a 40% match. Locally, there's the Delaware Watershed Conservation Fund, which is a different submittal timeline. So Growing Greener we submit by the end of June. The Delaware Watershed typically takes applications through the end of March. Grants range from 75 to $1 million, so it would fit right in the pocket of funding requirements for the remainder of Pleasant Grove stream restoration. They encourage a 1-to-1 match of what you're requesting, but it's not required. And it is specifically for restoration work given in the Delaware River Basin watershed, which we are. I also think the DCNR Community Conservation Partnership Program, the C2P2 grants, which a lot of people use for like playgrounds and other recreational equipment. I think we could have a bid at pursuing that grant because it is, they have grants specifically for stream restoration kind of conservation, and it's also on a municipal owned parcel that is open to the public for recreation, so.
But I think with DCNR, you can only have one of those grants open at one time, correct?
Did you guys pursue C2 for another?
No, we had one open that we just we closed out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's also a USDA watershed protection and flood prevention program that we could pursue potentially. There's no fixed annual deadline, and applications are submitted through conservation districts. So it's something that we can reach out to the conservation district and talk about. Any questions?
Yeah, I have quite a few actually, but
If you don't mind your microphone, sorry.
one of the main issues in West Town is not some of these very large projects. We have, you probably know, we have like 180 small projects that are on private property. People have developed some sort of BMP on their property. They were more or less forced into doing that. And some of these are really, really small projects. We're talking about drainage ditches, that sort of thing. Yet they're having to spend a lot of money with your engineering firm to come out and inspect it, and they have to set up funds. I mean, where do you draw the line for what has to be engineered and covered by this MS4 overall program? Because I think we're doing overkill here beyond belief.
Currently, with the small projects, we do have the simplified approach, which instead of having a actual engineered plan of a customized structure, it is the homeowner can even do the calculations to design or size an infiltration trench. So that was implemented to kind of save costs on their end. And then for the inspections, it's really for them because they're spending $40,000 to put a stone infiltration trench in next to the pool. And having a construction inspector, third-party construction inspector there is to ensure that their contractor is installing it correctly and that it's going to function. Because the last thing you want is to pay $40,000 for a contractor to put a stone pit in your yard and then have it not drain and back up. And have to take it back up.
Yeah, the issue we've been seeing with simplified approach stormwater projects is that originally it was designed for property owners to install it themselves. It really is step-by-step guide how to do it. And some owners did it themselves, but many hire contractors and the prices just keeps increasing on the contract. And you have to meet the specific requirements to qualify for simplified. You have to have a roof area of equal or larger size than what you are trying to mitigate. So some homes that are smaller, like colonials versus rancher, it's much more difficult for them to use a simplified method because they just naturally do not have large roofs. So it's not as simple as it sounds. That's the feedback that we've been getting from property owners.
Well, I understand we are gonna have yet a new ordinance that will supersede what we have already. The insight into, is this going to make things even more difficult, is it gonna make things more costly for our residents?
Not necessarily, I personally, I can't speak on that generally. I mean, there's, like, the one thing I recall from it is like, so currently the definition for, an illicit discharge. It includes wash water, washing your car. It includes leaf litter from grass cuttings going into storm drain. Currently, in the new one, it's relaxing like those kind of definitions. So in general, it should be better, but I'm sure there's probably something in there that would make it more of a pain
Burden.
for some residents.
So are there, well, I guess we have to see it before we know about it, because you mentioned there was a draft that was not made public because I guess it didn't meet certain standards, but when are we going to see a draft so we know what is reasonable and what we should object to?
There is currently a draft of the MS4 permit, but there is not a model ordinance that we can base what the 2028 ordinance is gonna have to look like.
And usually it's the county, I believe, who
Yeah.
takes a stab at the model and then collects feedback from all the municipalities process.
Well, I have a feeling we're gonna probably be even more unhappy, but going back to a bigger issue, volume is the word I'm hearing all the time about the standard thing. What are we measuring and how are we measuring it in terms of volume? Talking about the again, smaller projects, when you, what is the volume that's going to require the type of attention that would get you involved?
So we volume, as we get more violent storms, which it seems like there's a trend where we get these larger unprecedented storms every year. So that's the idea, that's why we want to go towards a volume control. So volume control is just delaying the discharge. So you have 1 inch of water that falls on this building and it immediately runs off into the stream. And then if you have a flash flood, by installing a basin that is volume oriented, so it has a higher riser and different size orifices or holes in it, we are detaining and slowing down the discharge of stormwater.
So this is going back to the old detention bonds or whatever that were used as that, they were kind of viewed as the older way, now they're coming back to that as a.
Not-
device.
Not in like the same sense, like it's like. You want to detain enough to infiltrate, but you also want the structure to be able to handle and discharge those higher peak flows. So. A rain garden with the different sizes of orifices to discharge. Rather than just hold the water there and. Let it infiltrate or absorb
Right.
or evapotransport, like. Because it's not feasible to have it only infiltrate or be uptake by a rain garden, like you have to have a outlet. Besides just like normally, instead of you have a rain garden, you have emergency spillway, which is, it's designed to hold X amount of water, and then once it hits that, it's gonna overtop and just start discharging. So having structures that are able to not only infiltrate. But also control your floodplains.
Thank you.
We have figures, man hours, 2023, do you have any recent figures from man hours? Devoted, and can you separate out the 180 little projects for man hours as opposed to the others?
Yeah, we do that. Yeah, we have, yeah, I can, like for every project that we have an escrow set up, we can estimate what the estimated cost was for the property owner to do simplified versus engineered plan. It's not apples to apples, I'll tell you that, because depending on who you hire as a contractor, you might hire a contractor who's knowledgeable on how to install the system and follows the rules and guidelines. Or you might hire a contractor who, I know the inspection crew would show up and all the materials are incorrect for the trench or the rain garden, and then they have to restart. So you have, but I can pull that information for you if you're interested to know in terms of how much money it costs to each property owner on engineering side of things. We don't know how much they pay to their engineer, but at least to the township engineer to review and for inspections, and how long it takes. I can give you that.
Great.
Yes.
This is probably a really simple, basic question, but do grain barrels and things like that?
Rain barrels are included in non-simplified plans sometimes, so like a house will have a rain barrel with like an infiltration trench. And it's not necessarily ideal. In the eyes of the state as a DMP, like having a rain barrel, but they are incorporated into some of the engineered plans.
So it could maybe be a little bit of help, but not.
Yeah.
Also, when we as West Ham adopted our ordinance, the model ordinance from the county. For whatever reason, it was, we did not include rain gardens as an acceptable BMP. Which I think was a big mistake, but I hope we can change that. Apparently that is becoming, again, a more acceptable way of doing things. If you have any insights.
Would agree that, yeah, I've seen more rain gardens, and I mean, along with the updates to the permit and the new ordinance that are coming out. They are updating their BMP manual, which is the guidance that engineers use for designing these kind of structures. So I mean, it's fluid, it's always changing, there's always new research, it's never set in stone.
I think the exemptions, that's what you probably would look for to see how specific projects would be exempted. We've gotten a lot of questions about under deck drainage systems. Like if you have under deck drainage system, then can the deck be considered pervious as opposed to impervious? Gravel is always a question about the gravel.
Well, if you guys think anything else, feel free to reach out. Here, agreement.
There may be some people in the audience have some questions.
So then let's look at 16, chapter drive. Couple easy ones, the MOU, the acronym is for.
Memorandum of understanding, like, yeah.
I don't know if it's easy to pull up the plan for Pleasant Grove, one of those drawings you had sent me.
The design,
Yes,
just,
the reason I'm bringing that up is. We have about 60 trees that are planted at the Pleasant Grove open space that the stream restoration projects. In addition, we planted another 50 trees. In that same open space, so the 50 trees that were recently planted, we planned them to be outside of the stream restoration project, allowing for equipment paths and stuff like that. But the question of looking for an answer part is the trees that are there that were planted by CRC and volunteers for 2023.
Joe, is this the plan? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay,
That's on the west side. One on the, that's the further east.
that's Blenheim.
It should be the last.
There, yeah.
This one, Concord and Blenheim, okay.
So. There's still about 40 trees on this side of the stream. And they're in the construction area, and we're doing maintenance on it because it's filled with Japanese hops and honeysuckle and all kinds of stuff, otherwise the trees are dead. So my question is, we don't have to answer right now, but I would like to get an answer eventually. What do you plan on doing with the trees that are in the path of your restoration? So they're only 3 years old, you know, or they've only planted 3 years ago, so it would be nice to know what is the plan for those trees from Cedar Engineering standpoint, because if they're gonna get ripped out and destroyed, then we're gonna stop doing it.
I don't know. The grading ones or the actual grading ones of the stream bank in that area.
Yeah, I measured it, it's it, I mean, they're right at the construction, so there's definitely. A need. In my mind, it would be great if we could take those trees. Transplant them temporarily, or maybe try to tree care to give us some suggestions on how to handle those trees temporarily, and you could use them. At the end of the project, put them back in.
Yeah, my understanding when we talked to the engineer about this project is that there are some trees that would need to be taken down based on a stream bank where restoration needs to occur. And some of these trees would be chopped up, for the lack of a better word, and put within the bank to stabilize things for, so some of them would go, I just don't know exactly which ones, and
I know it's a minor issue, and I wanna, delay
Mhm.
anything, but it would be nice to have a follow-up for an answer.
Okay.
And then the last thing I got is the NEP maximum extent practical, the calculation. Can you elaborate on what that is measuring? Give us an example of what that is.
The maximum extent practical calculation takes into account for the stormwater control measures or facilities that you already have in your township and how much volume you're already controlling. And then there's also a socioeconomic factor and to weigh your ability to complete new projects. And the level at the ladder is going to affect your objective, isn't clear right now, but it is a calculator based off of who you are as a township, what you already have, what land is available, what impervious surface is here, to determine how much stormwater you have to, or volume you have to reduce. There is a set number of cubic feet, so it's I think it's 50,000 cubic feet or 75,000 cubic feet. It doesn't go up. The maximum set calculator only reduces the number. So it's just baseline, and then they reduce it for townships based on the calculations.
so that's for the basins, but the stream restoration project would not get a reduction, correct? Because it's not a volume.
The stream restoration project, how they factored that into the calculator was the cost of the project. So
Okay.
based off of the total funding that the township spent on the project, they credit you for spending the money.
Okay, so pretty much if any projects that you completed as a part of PRP might qualify from some sort of a credit based on other
Yes,
criteria, okay,
still unsure of
what it looks like.
actually will be, but it's the
Okay.
idea.
Yeah, because before I think somebody raised a
Clarify.
question about that.
Each municipality is, it's like a customized plan based on what they've done, what they have spent, and each one is unique.
Yes, so Westtown could have 50,000 cubic feet, Oakville could have to do 40,000 cubic feet. It's trying to make it fair.
Half our back. Does calculating the value of the already existing project.
So anything that's completed for the PRP, there's in our inventory. So we have inventory of 88, 89 structures. That's it.
Nothing before that.
Well, that's calculated from 2014
2004.
or 2004.
Everything that was post 2004 was included in
Right.
the, yeah.
So we might have more than that.
2004 is
In terms of the year, so we've had like, so we've have a lot of stormwater facilities installed as a part of all the subdivisions. But they did not make a cut of the year. So anything that was installed after 2004, that is subject to all these regulations. But we know for a fact there are more stormwater basins and underground structures in the township that are not being maintained or managed.
Yeah.
What happened in 2004 that's when it started?
It was a regulation. I don't
It's,
know.
yeah, with the new regulator, the current regulation, it went into, a regulation went into effect. And then anything post 2004 was built to that regulation included in the management profile.
Because they would say that everything before that probably is undersized.
Any other questions? Sam, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, we have a couple of minutes, so why don't we?
So for those who are online, I will have to restart Zoom for the regular meetings. So once I close out, you just have to log back in for the meeting.